Welcome to Deadlines and Dirty Dishes. I'm your host, Alison Quinn, virtual assistant, online business manager, and founder of my own flexible, freelance-powered business. By day, I help entrepreneurs get organised, gain momentum, and stop doing it all alone. By night, I'm a solo mum navigating the beautiful chaos of life with my daughter. This podcast is for you, the self-employed, the overcommitted, and the curious. I promise honest insights, behind-the-scenes real talk, and practical tips for building a business that works on your terms. No sugarcoating, just authentic conversations about balancing deadlines and dirty dishes. So whether you're folding laundry, commuting, or stealing a moment of peace, I'm glad you're here with me today. Let's get into it. You know, life has a funny way of teaching us lessons in the most unexpected places. For me, one of those places happened to be curled up on my daughter's bed, reading picture books. What began as a simple bedtime ritual, something I did to help my little one wind down and hopefully get some sleep, gradually evolved into something much more profound. Today, I want to share with you my journey from books to business. How those precious moments reading with my daughter transformed not only our relationship, but also revolutionised my approach to productivity, growth, and even how I serve my clients as a virtual assistant and online business manager. It's fascinating how the simple act of turning pages together night after night revealed powerful parallels to successful business operations. Those bedtime stories, believe it or not, contained hidden lessons about momentum, consistency, collaboration, and the art of letting go, all essential components of thriving businesses. So whether you're a parent who's rediscovered the joy of reading through your child's eyes, a business owner feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list, or simply someone looking for a fresh perspective on productivity, this episode is for you. Let's explore how the magic of bedtime stories transformed into powerful business insights that might just change how you approach your work and life. I never anticipated that something as simple as reading with my daughter would spark such a profound personal transformation. What started as a routine bedtime ritual, choosing a picture book, curling up together, and exploring new stories, soon became a shared passion that would change both of our lives. In those early days, we devoured classics like Room on the Broom and The Gruffalo. There's something magical about Julia Donaldson's rhyming text that captivates children, and, if I'm honest, adults too. Those simple stories became the foundation of our reading journey together. But as my daughter grew, so did the complexity of our literary adventures. We gradually progressed to longer chapter books, diving into the thrilling adventures of the Christmasaurus and the heartfelt world of Jacqueline Wilson's Hetty Feather. Each new book became a world for us to explore together, and I found myself rediscovering the pure joy of getting lost in a story. But out of all the books we've read together, one stands out above all the rest: I Am Rebel. This book truly captivated us both in a way that was different from anything we'd read before. It wasn't just entertaining, it sparked meaningful conversations and reflections that extended far beyond bedtime. I can honestly say it's probably the best book I've ever read. Not just for its compelling story, but for the way it resonated with both of us on different levels. For my daughter, it was an exciting tale, but for me, it became a mirror reflecting back important life lessons about courage and standing up for what you believe in. I Am Rebel transformed from a mere bedtime story into something symbolic for us, a powerful reminder of how books can ignite curiosity, inspire confidence, and reinforce the value of perseverance through challenges. These weren't just themes in the story. They became conversations we carried into our daily lives. What I never expected was how this bedtime ritual would gradually rekindle my own relationship with reading. A relationship that had been neglected during the busy years of early parenthood. As it turns out, those moments reading with my daughter were just the beginning of a much bigger journey. During this reading journey with my daughter, something unexpected happened. I started dedicating more time to my own reading as well. It's funny how watching someone else fall in love with books can reignite that same passion in yourself. After years of claiming I was too busy to read, I suddenly found myself hungry for stories of my own. I still remember the first book I picked up just for me, Where the Crawdads Sing. I'd heard everyone talking about it, and something about Kaya's isolated life in the marsh resonated with me deeply. I found myself staying up late after my daughter had fallen asleep, completely absorbed in this other world. Then came lessons in chemistry, with Elizabeth Zott's determination and brilliance making me laugh and think in equal measure. I've even pre-ordered Atmosphere, just to keep this momentum going. It's like rediscovering a part of myself I had forgotten existed. What's fascinating is how this simple act, setting aside time to read, has had such a profound ripple effect on other areas of my life. My mind feels clearer. I'm more creative in problem solving. Even my productivity has improved, which seems counterintuitive when you're technically taking time away from work to read. I think there's something about immersing yourself in stories that exercises different parts of your brain. It's like mental cross-training. Where I once saw reading as an indulgence I couldn't afford time for, I now recognise it as an essential practice that makes me better at everything else. What began as an effort to develop my daughter's love for books has transformed into a commitment to my own personal growth. Our shared reading ritual may seem like a small, simple act, but it's become the foundation for significant changes in my mindset, my business approach, and honestly, my entire outlook on life. There's something truly magical about a shared passion. The connection I've created with my daughter through our reading ritual has become one of the most precious aspects of our relationship. It's not just about the stories themselves, though they're wonderful. It's about that moment when we both gasp at a plot twist, or when she looks up at me with wide eyes to ask, "What do you think will happen next?" We're not just reading a book, we're experiencing it together. This shared ritual has created a bond between us that goes beyond the typical parent-child dynamic. We have inside jokes based on characters we love. We reference storylines when facing real-life challenges. "Remember how the dog in I Am Rebel handled this?" has become shorthand for encouraging persistence when things get tough. What's fascinating is watching how this shared passion creates its own momentum. My daughter now brings me books she thinks I'll enjoy. I find myself looking forward to our reading time all day. The consistency of this ritual, knowing that no matter what chaos the day held, we'll end it together with a book, creates a security and closeness that's hard to quantify. I've been reflecting on how this same principle applies so perfectly to business relationships, particularly between business owners and their virtual support teams. There's a similar magic that happens when you find someone who shares your passion for your business, even if you each play different roles within it. Just like my daughter and I connect over books despite our different reading levels, a business owner and their VA connect over the vision of the business despite their different day-to-day responsibilities. When a virtual assistant genuinely cares about your business goals, there's a synergy that develops that's remarkably similar to any other shared passion. I see this with my clients all the time. When we first start working together, there's often a tentative period where they're just delegating tasks. But as we develop trust and shared understanding, something shifts. They begin sharing their bigger vision. I start anticipating needs before they articulate them. We develop our own shorthand and inside jokes about particular projects or clients. What was once a transactional relationship becomes a partnership built on mutual investment in outcomes. The business owner isn't struggling alone anymore, and I get the satisfaction of contributing to something meaningful. Just like reading with my daughter, it's simply better when we're in it together. Before committing to daily reading with my daughter, I knew it was something I wanted to do, but I never quite made the time for it. Sound familiar? I think we all have those things we intend to do someday when life magically becomes less busy. But here's the truth I've discovered, that someday never arrives on its own. Growth doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design, through intentional choices about how we spend our time. When I finally committed to reading every single day with my daughter, even if just for 15 minutes, everything changed. Not overnight, but gradually, consistently, meaningfully. I started noticing that those 15 minutes often stretched into 30 as we both became more engaged. My daughter's vocabulary expanded. My own love of reading reignited. Our conversations became richer. None of this would have happened if I'd kept waiting for the perfect time to establish this habit. This principle applies powerfully to business growth as well. I can't count how many business owners I've spoken with who tell me they know they need to update their systems, streamline their client onboarding, or organise their digital files, but they're waiting until things slow down to tackle it. Here's what I gently tell them. Things never slow down unless you deliberately create the space. New habits, whether personal or professional, require intention and often some initial discomfort. There's a reason we stay in our familiar patterns, even when they're not serving us well. Change requires energy and conscious choice. What I've learned through my reading journey is that small, consistent efforts compound dramatically over time. When my daughter and I first started reading chapter books, we'd sometimes only get through a few pages before bedtime. But night after night, those pages added up to completed books, to expanded horizons, to treasured memories. The same is true in business. 10 minutes spent documenting a process today might save you hours next month. 1 hour investing in training your VA this week might free up days of your time over the coming year. Setting up that automated email sequence might feel like it's taking forever, but once it's running, it works for you while you sleep. Growth doesn't demand grand, sweeping changes. It asks for intentional, consistent action. The small choices, to read one more chapter, to delegate one more task, to streamline one more process, these are what ultimately transform our lives and businesses. The magic isn't in doing everything at once. It's in doing something meaningful consistently and watching as those small efforts create remarkable change over time. If my reading journey has taught me anything, it's that everything's better when shared. This applies just as powerfully to business as it does to curling up with a book. The relationship between a business owner and their VA or OBM is remarkably similar to the dynamic that develops between reading partners. It's collaborative, supportive, and infinitely more productive than going it alone. When I'm reading with my daughter, we each bring something different to the experience. She brings fresh eyes and endless questions that make me see familiar stories in new ways. I bring context and comprehension that helps her navigate complex narratives. Together, we create an experience that's richer than either of us could create independently. This is precisely how effective VA and OBM relationships work. The business owner brings vision, expertise in their field, and intimate knowledge of their clients' needs. The VA or OBM brings systems knowledge, organizational skills, and dedicated focus on operational details. When these strengths combine, the business achieves a level of functionality and growth that would be impossible for either party working alone. I've seen firsthand how transformative this partnership can be. One client came to me drowning in administrative tasks, spending so much time responding to emails and scheduling appointments that they had no mental space left for the strategic work that would actually grow their business. Within weeks of working together, they regained nearly 15 hours per week. The beauty of these professional relationships is that they're not just transactional, they're truly collaborative. When I support a business owner, I become invested in their success. I celebrate their wins as if they were my own, because in many ways they are. Just as my daughter and I share the triumph of finishing a challenging book, my clients and I share the satisfaction of watching their business become more streamlined, profitable, and sustainable. Many business owners resist seeking support because they believe no one else can do things their way. This reminds me of how I initially struggled to let my daughter read parts of our books, convinced she wouldn't use the right voices or emphasis. When I finally let go and shared the experience more fully, it became infinitely more rewarding. The same happens in business. When owners finally allow someone else to share the load, they discover that different doesn't mean worse. Often it means better. The most successful business owners I work with understand that having professional support isn't a luxury or a sign of weakness. It's a strategic advantage that allows them to operate at their highest level. Like a well-chosen book that perfectly matches a reader's interests, the right VA or OBM relationship fits so naturally that you wonder how you ever managed without it. One of the most powerful lessons from my reading journey is understanding the value of momentum. When we established our daily reading routine, the progress happened almost imperceptibly at first. A few more pages each night, slightly longer sessions, gradually more complex vocabulary. But looking back over months, the growth is astonishing. My daughter, who once stumbled over simple words, now confidently tackles challenging texts, all because we showed up consistently, day after day. This same principle applies beautifully to business support. When you work with a VA consistently, you're building momentum that compounds over time. It's not just about having tasks completed, it's about the cumulative effect of reliable, ongoing support that keeps everything moving forward without interruption. I've seen this play out with numerous clients. One entrepreneur I work with initially hired me for just a couple of hours a week to manage their CRM. Because those tasks were consistently handled without their involvement, they could dedicate uninterrupted time to client work. Within a few months, their client load increased simply because they stopped dropping the ball on follow-ups and could focus entirely on delivering their expertise. The magic happens when support becomes as routine as our nightly reading. Tasks don't pile up, deadlines aren't missed, customer inquiries receive prompt responses. This consistency creates a professional impression that builds trust with clients and partners. It also prevents the stop-start pattern that kills momentum in so many businesses, where owners cycle between productivity and administrative overload. Just as reading daily creates a reader, consistent business support creates a thriving business. Not through dramatic interventions, but through the quiet power of showing up reliably, day after day, keeping all the essential pieces moving forward. When my daughter and I sit down for our reading time, something magical happens. We keep each other accountable. On evenings when I'm tired and might be tempted to skip our reading session, her enthusiasm pulls me back in. "Mum, what happens next in the story?" she'll ask, wide-eyed with anticipation. And on nights when she's less focused, my engagement helps bring her attention back to the page. We create this beautiful feedback loop where neither of us wants to let the other down. This dynamic mirrors exactly what happens in a successful VA relationship. As a virtual assistant and online business manager, I'm not just completing tasks. I'm serving as an accountability partner who helps maintain momentum. I become the voice asking, "What about that newsletter we planned?" Or, "Shall we follow up with those leads from last week's event?" Another client confessed that before working with me, they'd sometimes avoid client communication when projects fell behind schedule. The accountability of our fortnightly reviews meant we addressed delays proactively, reaching out before clients even noticed an issue. This transparency actually strengthened client relationships rather than damaging them. This shared accountability creates a professional safety net. Just as my daughter and I hold each other to our reading commitment, a VA relationship creates a system where important balls don't get dropped and promises don't go unfulfilled. It's not about micromanagement, it's about creating a partnership where each person's strengths support the other's growth. Looking back at how reading transformed my daily life, I realised that the change only happened when I stopped viewing it as an extra task and started protecting time for it. Before making this commitment, books were always something I intended to get back to someday when life was less busy. But that magical someday never arrived until I deliberately carved out the time. I started with just 15 minutes before bed, a small commitment that felt manageable. Then something interesting happened. Those 15 minutes became 30, then 45, as I rediscovered how reading recharged me rather than depleted my energy. By prioritising this seemingly non-essential activity, I actually enhanced my overall productivity and well-being. This same principle applies perfectly to business owners considering working with a VA. Many entrepreneurs I meet are caught in what I call the someday trap. They tell themselves they'll delegate tasks and reclaim their time when they're more established, when revenue hits a certain point, or when they're less overwhelmed, essentially someday. But here's the reality I've witnessed repeatedly. That perfect moment never arrives organically. The business owner who's drowning in operational details today will still be drowning in them 6 months from now unless something fundamentally changes. When clients finally take the leap and begin delegating those recurring tasks that drain their energy, the inbox management, the social media updates, the client onboarding processes, they experience the same revelation I had with reading. The time they reclaim isn't just empty space. It becomes fertile ground for the work that truly matters. When business owners decide their highest value isn't in scheduling appointments or formatting documents, but in strategy, relationship building, or creating intellectual property, amazing transformations happen. Just like my reading habit enriched my life far beyond the initial time investment, delegating low-impact tasks creates a return that extends far beyond the immediate hours saved. One of the most unexpected joys from my reading journey has been the shift in how I feel about it. What began as something I thought I should be doing, almost a parental duty, has transformed into something I genuinely look forward to each day. There's a particular liberation that comes when you stop seeing an activity as an obligation and start experiencing it as a pleasure. I found that once I released the pressure I'd placed on myself around reading, the good parent narrative, the educational outcomes, the developmental milestones, I could simply enjoy the experience for what it was. The irony is that all those benefits happened anyway, but they came naturally once I let go of controlling them. This mental shift parallels what I see with business owners who struggle to delegate. Many hold on to tasks with white knuckles, convinced they should be able to handle everything themselves. There's often this underlying belief that being a real entrepreneur means doing it all, or that no one else could possibly do things to their standards. I've worked with clients who spend years resisting delegation, only to experience a profound transformation once they finally let go. The resistance to delegation often masks deeper fears. Sometimes it's about control. Sometimes it's imposter syndrome, whispering that their success is fragile. And sometimes it's simply not knowing how to articulate their processes. Whatever the reason, the breakthrough comes with that first experience of successful delegation, when they realize that sharing the load doesn't diminish their business but actually strengthens it. Just like I discovered that reading became more enjoyable when I released my expectations around it, business owners discover that their work becomes more fulfilling when they concentrate on their zone of genius and let go of everything else. The transformation isn't just in their calendar or task list, it's in their relationship with their business and ultimately their quality of life. When I reflect on my reading journey, I'm struck by how the simplest lessons often have the most profound applications. Through these bedtime stories and personal reading time, I've discovered 3 fundamental truths that apply equally to personal growth and business success. First, there's the power of embracing support. Reading with my daughter taught me that shared experiences create deeper meaning. We didn't just read books, we discussed them, questioned them, and experienced them together. This collaboration enriched both our experiences in ways that simply wouldn't have happened if we'd read separately. In business, this translates directly to the value of partnership. When entrepreneurs embrace support, whether from a VA, an OBM, or other team members, they access perspectives, skills, and capacities beyond their own limitations. Consistency has been another crucial lesson. Our reading habit didn't transform our relationship overnight. It was the daily commitment, the showing up even on tired evenings, that accumulated into something meaningful. This steady persistence creates a compound effect that's impossible to replicate with sporadic effort. I've watched clients transform their businesses through this same principle, not with dramatic overnight changes, but through consistent, supported action that builds momentum week after week. Perhaps most importantly, I've learned about prioritization. Reading became a non-negotiable in our household because we recognized its value and protected that time accordingly. In business, this means having the courage to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important, and then structuring your support systems to ensure the important work actually happens. The thread connecting all these lessons is collaboration. Whether it's a parent and child exploring imaginary worlds together, or a business owner and their support team bringing a vision to life, progress accelerates when we work together. The most successful entrepreneurs I know aren't lone wolves. They're connectors who understand that their greatest achievements will come through partnership, not isolation. Growth, at its core, isn't a solitary pursuit. It flourishes in the fertile ground of shared purpose, consistent effort, and intentional focus. When we embrace these principles, we find not just greater productivity, but also more joy and fulfillment in the journey. It's fascinating to me how our journey through books has come full circle to inform my approach to business. What began as simple bedtime stories with my daughter has revealed profound insights that apply directly to professional relationships. When I think about the parallels between reading with my daughter and working with my clients, the connections are surprisingly clear. Those moments flipping through Room on the Broom or diving into I Am Rebel weren't just about reading words on a page. They were about creating a shared experience, building trust, and growing together. That's exactly what happens in the best business partnerships. The principles that emerge from our reading ritual translate beautifully to client relationships. Take patience, for instance. Learning to read isn't an overnight process. It requires consistent effort and encouragement. Similarly, developing systems and workflows for a business takes time and persistence. Both require someone who understands that growth happens in increments, not all at once. Then there's the element of trust. My daughter trusted me to guide her through challenging passages, just as my clients trust me to navigate complex business operations. This trust wasn't immediate. It was earned through showing up consistently, demonstrating competence, and creating a safe space for questions and experimentation. I've also noticed how both reading and business support involve a delicate balance of structure and flexibility. With reading, we had our routine, but we'd adjust based on tiredness, interest, or excitement about a particular book. In my business partnerships, having systems is crucial, but so is the ability to adapt when circumstances change or new opportunities arise. Perhaps most importantly, both experiences highlight the power of presence. Being fully engaged while reading, doing the voices, asking questions, sharing reactions, creates a richer experience than simply going through the motions. The same holds true in business relationships. Being genuinely invested in my clients' success, celebrating their wins, and helping them navigate challenges creates partnerships that transcend traditional service arrangements. What continues to amaze me is how these seemingly unrelated parts of my life have informed each other so deeply. The skills I've developed through reading, patience, active listening, adaptability, and genuine engagement are precisely the qualities that make for successful business partnerships. As we wrap up today's episode, I can't help but reflect on this unexpected journey that's taken me from bedtime stories to business insights. Who would have thought that reading The Gruffalo would teach me as much about effective business partnerships as any professional development course? If you're feeling overwhelmed in your business right now, struggling to keep all those plates spinning, I want you to know that this feeling isn't a sign of failure. It's actually an invitation to growth. Just as I discovered that reading becomes more meaningful when shared, business becomes more manageable and fulfilling when you don't go it alone. The most important lesson I've learned is that transformation happens when we make space for it. Whether that's carving out 20 minutes for reading each night or finally deciding to bring support into your business, that first step changes everything. I'd love to continue this conversation with you. If today's episode resonated with you and you're curious about how professional support might transform your business operations, let's talk. You can book a free consultation through the link in the show notes. We'll explore how a VA or online business manager might be the reading buddy your business has been waiting for. Until next time, I'm Alison Quinn, and this has been Deadlines and Dirty Dishes, where we turn the messy realities of business and life into something a little more manageable. Happy reading and even happier delegating.